All right, I want to bring in Richard Johnson, who's a lecturer in U.S. politics at Queen Mary University of London, and he's with us from Oxford. Thank you so much for being here with us. So we just heard our reporter there talking about sort of the sprint to November, but for Donald Trump, at least for his campaign schedule, it seems more like a slow walk. What do you make of the fact that Trump isn't really stumping in the swing states?
I think that's a good observation, Kim. And I'm thinking back to 2016, when Donald Trump had an extremely vigorous campaign schedule. Indeed, Donald Trump was at this point in the race doing more campaign events than Hillary Clinton. And when we look back at that 2016 race, people criticized the Clinton campaign, for example, for not going to key swing states after the convention like Michigan, which of course she lost to Donald Trump and helped give Trump that electoral college victory. So it seems to me that the Trump campaign could be at risk of making the very mistakes that, say, the Hillary Clinton campaign had made against him in 2016.
Yeah, that's a great point. So if there's a lack of energy there also seems to be sort of a lack of focus in terms of Trump's attacks on Harris and her running mate. But one thing that we have seen his campaign do is sort of seizing on Walz's military service record. For Democrats, sort of an unpleasant echo of the John Kerry Swift boat controversy. Will this be as effective as that was, do you think?
Well, I think if you go back to 2004, the Kerry campaign made John Kerry's military service a central part of the message against George W. Bush. Remember, the United States was at war both in Iraq and Afghanistan. George W. Bush had taken the United States to war. But going back and looking at their records in Vietnam, George W. Bush did not serve overseas in Vietnam. John Kerry did and was injured and won 3 Purple Hearts. And at the Democratic Convention in August of 2004, John Kerry began his speech by saying, "I'm John Kerry reporting for duty." And it was the Swift boat ads that followed really almost immediately after that convention that kind of took away the convention bounce in 2004. Tim Walz's appeal, I think, of course, his military record is something the campaign will be talking about and wants to talk about. But I think that the context is very different. The United States is not in the same context of war as it was in 2004. And Tim Walz is not presenting himself as a military hero in the way, quite rightly, because John Kerry's had the particularly distinguished record in Vietnam. So I think he's less vulnerable to this attack than John Kerry was 20 years ago.
All right. Meanwhile, pivoting to the top of the ticket, Kamala Harris was in a swing state, Arizona, seeing huge crowds there, apparently, despite passing over Arizona Senator Mark Kelly for running mate. Do you get a sense that it's still part of Harris's honeymoon period, or have the fundamentals of the race really changed here?
This has been a remarkable few weeks for the Democratic campaign after a remarkably poor few weeks just before that. This election is about 2 belts, the Rust Belt and the Sun Belt. And Kamala Harris's selection as the nominee has put both in play for the Democrats in a serious way. Harris, I think, puts the key Sun Belt states of Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada back in play for the Democrats, because she can appeal to core constituencies that help put those states in the Democratic column, particularly turning out both African Americans, but also suburban voters who are becoming increasingly important in states like Arizona and in Georgia. And then Tim Walz has been chosen to help strengthen that appeal in the Rust Belt states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. And also, I would say Kamala Harris has an important appeal there. African American voters are important in those states as well, and suburban voters are also important there. So I think this is quite a strong ticket. And one of the reasons why the Trump campaign, I think, is floundering at the moment is they weren't anticipating confronting a ticket like this, and they're having to recalibrate, and their machine is not clicking into gear quite as quickly as it needs to. Now, the Democrats shouldn't be complacent about this, and a lot can go wrong. A lot of surprises can happen. But at the moment, they're in a good position, and they should try and maintain this momentum going into the convention. and then using the convention to kind of give an extra boost in the sprint towards the final general election.
Yeah, and the tightening polls seem to reflect what you're talking about there. Richard Johnson in Oxford. We'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.